Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the new screensavers is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
Walking in VR like Ready Player One, a review of the new ThinkPad Yoga, and getting private on Facebook. Live from the Twit Eastside Studios in beautiful Petaluma, this is the new Screensavers.
Leo Laporte.
I'm the hula hoop dancing Jason Howell. How's it going?
And we really want to thank Robert from Rochester. Robert works at the IBM facility in Rochester, Minnesota, but he's out here because he's just put online the world's fastest supercomputer. What's it called? Sierra. You can see if you go to YouTube, introducing Sierra. It is 26,000 processors, CPUs, and mostly GPUs. There's 4 times the GPUs. And how many watts did you say it uses?
13 megawatts.
13, okay. To add 2 plus 2, 13 megawatts of power. Wow. Now, they're doing more than adding 2 plus 2. But the irony of a computer is it's either on or off. It doesn't, so it would take the same amount of power to calculate what it's really calculating, which is simulating atomic reactions.
That's insane.
Isn't that wild from
That's
Lawrence
crazy.
Livermore Labs? What a great job. You get to work with that, Robert. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Coming to the new Screensavers. This is episode 150, kind of a red letter day, last day of March.
We should do a best of, Leo.
No.
No, okay.
No. No.
Go back in time,
No.
pick out moments.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
Before the
right.
show, we were looking back to the 100th episode of Call for Help, which was almost 20 years ago now. And my hair was a little bit browner back then.
You were wearing a bow tie.
And I was
Can't help
wearing
but
a
notice
bow
that you're
tie.
not wearing a bow tie today.
No, I'm wearing peppers. Chile peppers. So, coming up on today's show, you did something exciting.
Yeah, I went down to Mountain View, actually. Anthony and I went down to Mountain View yesterday and both looked at kind of the history of major moments in the development of virtual reality over the last 20, 30 years, but also got to step on an omnidirectional treadmill that you can actually see in use on Ready Player One that just launched.
This is one of the things nobody ever talks about. There you are on it.
Yeah.
Nobody ever talks about this problem with VR, which is you can't really move around. You can't be in a virtual environment and walk to the other side of the room. The Vive will only let you go a few feet, the Oculus Rift even less.
Yep.
So this solves that. And I was wondering how they solved it in Ready Player One. I guess it's not a spoiler to say that's how they do it with an Infinadeck.
Infinadeck is the name of the treadmill, and
I thought it was made up for the movie. This is the real thing.
It's absolutely a real thing. They approached them a couple of years ago, and it's in the movie. So when you see it, know that it exists.
We're both seeing it tonight.
Yep.
Separate theaters, though, because that's part of the deal.
Apparently the sound of the theater is not very good.
No. For future reference.
Yes, Cinema One is the one to go to. I know this now.
Okay, I'm just telling you. Coming up, if you're a Lenovo ThinkPad fan, and I know there are some crazed Lenovo ThinkPad fans, you've already posted a picture of this desk, because Leo has not 1, not 2, but 3 ThinkPads on here. This is the new X1 Yoga, 3rd generation. We'll talk about the difference between this and my 2nd generation in just a little bit. My review of the ThinkPad Yoga 3G in just a second.
Nice. And we've got not 1, but 2 calls for help today.
That's awesome.
Because there's a lot of help that is being called for around Facebook, as you all know. So we're going to give you some tips and pointers and the privacy aspects of Facebook, how to tweak your settings, maybe sidestep Facebook a little bit, but still get some of the value from it.
You and I are digital guys. We live online, on our phones. You're all about Android.
Yep.
There's somebody who works with us, and I'm not talking Father Robert, although that would make sense, who's really into paper. It's Megan Morrone. She still keeps a paper journal, bullet journal, but she may have found, it may have met its match. She's got the new Moleskine Smart, what is it called? The Smart Journal?
The
Smart Writing System, SWS, and we'll get a review of that.
Moleskine is Moleskine. Moleskine.
I'm curious to see how she pronounces it on
I
this
am
segment.
too.
They even if you ask Moleskine, they won't tell you. They
Great.
say
Leave it up to us to
whatever
figure
you want. But I think we heard the CEO on CNBC once say Moleskine. Not Moleskine, not Moleskine, I don't know. Why would you have a company that you don't know how to pronounce the name?
Yeah.
Right?
You got to figure it out.
Figure it out.
We figure it out.
Let's get started with the hot topics of the day, and there are some big stories. This one broke today, and it's in Quartz. So there is a federal government toxicology commission that tests different stuff for harm to humans. And the NTP, I think it's called, the National Toxicology Program. And they have just concluded a multi-year test of cell phones. Now, I have always said, and we've had people on, I've had people call me, say cell phones are dangerous, right? You wouldn't, recommend them. And I've always said they're not, there's no evidence. They're non-ionizing radiation. All the evidence points to them being safe. But I always said, if I ever hear of anything that says they're not, I will tell you. I will not hide this. Now we have something to talk about. And this actually is somewhat concerning. This was a study by the NTP that originally, the study authors, to understand this, you have to understand the National Toxicology Program's levels of exposure. So there's 4 different levels. Conclusive evidence. No evidence means, there's no evidence there's a connection. Equivocal evidence means, well, we don't know. Some evidence means, well, it's actually pretty clear. The highest level of confidence is clear evidence. The study authors came back with equivocal evidence that cell phone radiation over a long period of time, they exposed rats to it for 2 years. There is, again, equivocal evidence that it causes tumors in rats, not female rats.
Which is kind of wavering, which is kind of like, we can't say that it does, we can't say that it does.
And that's, by the way, most of the studies so far have been like
Right.
that. The peer review panel this week, which is a bunch of scientists with expertise in this kinds of cancer and that sort of thing, went through the peer review process and did something they very rarely do. They upgraded it from equivocal to clear evidence. Now, it was
seems like a really big.
It's a big deal,
move. And especially considering many times, as far as peer review is concerned, it doesn't necessarily. You don't come out at the end of that and have them recommending that you elevate.
Yeah.
They might confirm or they might downgrade, but rarely do they elevate. And that's what they did here.
Almost always in the peer review, because these are good studies, they just confirm it.
Yep.
So this was unusual. I think they did it because these scientists, and particularly these cancer doctors, consider, as I do, it's really important if there is an issue that everybody know, because we all carry cell phones all the time. So weirdly enough, it was equivocal evidence in female rats and clear evidence in male rats. And it caused heart cancer, a rare kind of heart cancer, a schwannoma in these male rats. So these study findings have been given to the FDA. It'll be up to the Food and Drug Administration to make, believe it or not, the FDA to make, not the FCC, the FDA to make a recommendation. But the guy who designed the study, he's retired, but he said at this point the FDA should say this is a potential problem, and you should not carry a cell phone next to your body. You should use wired headphones.
Yeah.
And
just
you
what
should
I was starting to like wireless.
I know. And you should particularly, what this is not about wireless, because what we don't know about the radiation from wireless headphones, we just know about it from cell phones. And particularly if you have kids, you should probably not have them carrying cell phones around. They should be, a little bit distant from young children. And so I just wanted to pass this along to you so that you can make the judgment, the determination. The article is in Quartz today. It's the National Toxicology Program. You could probably read their scientific paper. You could see the peer review if you have access to that kind of stuff and make your own judgment. I'm going to continue to watch this, but I thought it would be worth saying I'm not going to stop carrying a cell phone, but maybe it would be prudent to carry it in your purse or your briefcase, and remember, one of the things to keep in mind is that radiation goes down with the inverse of the square of the distance. So distance, it goes down very rapidly. 1 foot away, is a square of the amount of radiation if it's next to you, and 2 feet and 3 feet. So far, if you could put it here, you're probably fine.
Yeah, I've got my phone all the way over there.
And it's not, yeah, mine's going to be.
Of course, we're in this studio, surrounded by cell phones all the time.
There's cell phones, there's Wi-Fi, and those sorts of stuff. Yeah. This is a little bit concerning because we all carry them.
Well, and I mean, this particular study and the peer review, I mean, this is probably the most affirmative that we've heard.
There's never been
seen.
one. There's never been. And
there have been reports in the past, but they've wavered in their findings.
It's always been equivocal.
Exactly. And now we've kind of got the first, first peer review that actually elevates it to that next level. So a lot of the people who have felt, well, you're crazy if you're still carrying around your cell phone because, this is the new tobacco,
I've
right?
been telling people, don't worry about it, it's going to be fine. It's non-ionizing radiation, doesn't have any, that means it doesn't have enough energy to damage cells. I'm sure there'll be more studies, but
Absolutely,
the people at NTP said this was a very rigorous study. We trust the results, and we think there's clear evidence. So I wanted to pass that along to you.
Yeah.
Some changes at Microsoft. They go through reorganizations almost every year. However, this one might be more important than usual because Terry Myerson has been in charge of Windows at Microsoft for, 6 years, you think, Alex? For a long time. 5 years. He replaced the guy who did Windows 8, whose name I have thankfully forgotten. Yeah, Steven Sinofsky. So Terry Myerson is out at Microsoft. He's not only out as chief of Windows, he's gone. Don't know if this was his decision or not, but it does in. This is Mary Jo Foley's article. I saw one article that said that Windows has been demoted at Microsoft.
Well, they're not replacing his
and cloud has been
position.
Promoted.
Right.
So this will be very interesting. We'll watch this with interest, and of course, Paul and Mary Jo will have much more to say about it.
I mean, what is Microsoft if suddenly there is no Windows? Or, you know what I mean? Like, they still have, Windows is still a product that they have to support.
Yeah.
Why would they not? That still seems like a role that should be filled by somebody, though, right?
It's interesting. I think what it says is that the cloud and services are more important to Microsoft. They're more important to Apple as well. I mean, the world is changing, and desktop operating systems perhaps are not as important as they used to be. Mm-hmm. Some big news out of Facebook. A memo leaked out from 2016, a top Facebook executive saying, hey, so what if terrorists use Facebook to organize and people die? At least we still connect people.
Oh, my goodness.
Anything that allows us to connect more people more often is de facto good. This is Andrew Bosworth. Apparently, this memo is causing major turmoil within Facebook. The article from BuzzFeed News says that thousands of Facebook employees have commented on this post, and there's a lot of upset about it.
Well, and the guy who wrote it, is it Boz?
Andrew Bosworth, yeah.
He went in after the fact and deleted it when all this kind of happened?
Maybe that wasn't the best thing to do.
That doesn't seem like a very smart move. He's gone on to kind of, to clarify, at least on Twitter, that he wrote it intentionally provocatively, and not because he believed it, but because he felt like it would spur important conversation that Facebook would have to.
I don't buy that.
In the product, and that feels.
I don't buy that.
That feels kind of like a great redirection.
What I do think, in his defense, is I've heard the same thing from Phil Zimmerman talking about PGP, which is email encryption security. I even asked Phil at Tech TV a couple of decades ago, Phil, don't you know that bad guys are going to use email encryption? He said, well, that's kind of the price you pay. You can't put encryption out there and say only good people can use it.
Get it, yeah.
But he believed that the overall benefit was greater, even though there was this potential consequence. And of course, this is a debate we're still having 20 years later. And I think I'm going to give Andrew Bosworth at least the credit to say that's kind of what he was saying,
really
is that
way.
you connect people, sometimes those will be bad people, but that's a price you pay if you want to connect people. It's like saying you can't have the internet and still say, but only for good, right? It's going to be misused. And I kind of understand that. Nevertheless, it just is more pile-on.
Yeah, it's just bad timing. And I mean, as a result of this, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of kind of inner turmoil at Facebook now between, leaks now happening, people who both agree with his statement and those who disagree with it. It almost feels like a kind of a similar position that Google was in when the memo last year happened, and you started to hear about the internal kind of struggles around that. There's the internal, folks who understand and agree with Damore's statements, and those against it, and that's just not good for kind of
and it's really hard because it's hard for recruitment, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Facebook stock tanks. This is a lot of bad PR. Suddenly employees are upset. And really the key for any company in Silicon Valley, especially Facebook, is in recruiting the best minds out of college. If it gets hard to recruit those people because your stock's not as valuable and because people are somewhat suspect of the motivation of Facebook, that's going to be a big issue. That may actually hurt Facebook more than people deleting their Facebook accounts.
Yeah.
Remains to be seen. Troubles in Mountain View. One more story I do want to mention. We have a lovely family visiting us. They're from Germany. They are, they have a tourist visa, right? You're visiting, Adriana's from Colombia. Andre is from Berlin, Germany. That's their sweet son, Kevin. The next time they come to the United States, if this goes through, the administration is asking for it, they'll be asked for their social media accounts and 5 years of their email.
What?
So, yes, 14 million U.S. visitors, people looking for visas, tourist visas too, will be asked. This is a proposal published at the Federal Registry. And of course, this has to be enacted by after 60 days of public comment. It's not a rule yet, but that would require you to give over your social media accounts and email accounts before you visit the United States. And I talked to Andre and Adriana, and they said, yeah, we probably wouldn't come back. And I don't blame them.
Why would you?
I wouldn't go to any country that asked for that kind of information. That's appalling.
And I'm sure to a certain degree that's kind of the point.
It may be the point. That's what's really sad.
Right?
Wow.
It is sad.
All I can say is wow. And you know what? 60 days to comment. Maybe we should all leave some.
Yeah, because that worked out really well with net neutrality.
Yeah. All right. You noticed probably, if you're a ThinkPad fan, you've noticed I like my ThinkPads. It's a T470S from last year. The 480 came out this year. In fact, we have a whole bunch of new ThinkPads that Lenovo introduced at CES. And I was particularly interested in one of them, the new ThinkPad Yoga. This is, I'm going to do a little sneaky thing here. I'm going to take my Yogas and I'm going to flip them over. This is one of the things the Yoga does that's different from the X1 Carbon, is you can, it's a 2-in-1. It allows you to use it as a tablet, use it in this tent mode, which I actually like to do to watch movies. These are two different ThinkPad Yogas, last year's and this year's. If you look at the keyboard, we'll start by looking at the keyboard. You'll see there are some differences. This is in my hand here. This is the new Yoga, and they've changed a little bit. The ThinkPad logo is now dark and has a little red dot. I kind of like it. The good news is the keyboard is unchanged, and this is what makes ThinkPads so great. They still have decent keyboards when so many companies have abandoned good keyboards. Lots of travel. I think it's 1.9 millimeters. They have a great feel.
They never get rid of the nub.
And they have the nub. Now, I'm not a nub fan. Peter Bright loves his nub at Ars Technica. But if you love the nub, many people say it's the most accurate way to do a mouse pointer. And that's why it has these buttons here. This is left, right, and center button. But it also has an excellent trackpad. And one thing Lenovo did with the ThinkPads last year is they started using Microsoft's IntelliMouse, or whatever they call it, ThinkPad drivers, which really has made this an excellent ThinkPad. Of course, these are now 8th generation Intel CPUs. I have the 7th generation. I don't think that's a big deal. But what people are really talking about a lot now, I should show the front too, because the front has changed. The ThinkPad is black there, and they now have the X1 branding on the front of it. You'll see there's not much difference in connectors. In fact, they're almost identical, and this is one of the reasons I really love the ThinkPads. They do not stint on connectors. Wait a minute, this is the old one. You'll forgive me because it looks exactly the same as the new one. I'll show this side first. It has two Type-C USB connectors. Now, notice one of the Type A connectors, the USB 3.1 connectors, has gone missing. They don't have that anymore. But its connector does see a little battery logo on there. That means you can charge with it even when the laptop is closed or off. That's a nice feature for road warriors. Full-size HDMI, I think that's a really big selling point. Here's another USB 3.1 Type A connector. This is their kind of weirdo Ethernet adapter. It does not have a full-size Ethernet adapter. You have to buy the dongle. from Lenovo if you want to use this one. Standard headphone jack, on-off button, and both these yogas have, which something I really like. This is a pen that's recharging in the slot. It's an active pen with battery, but it recharges in the slot. If you like having a pen, I love the idea. I don't use the pen that often, but the fact that it's always there and this does not fall off is really a nice feature.
You can't insert it the wrong way.
And you cannot do what I have done in the past, which is put it in wrong. The biggest difference, though, that everybody's talking about is these screens. Now, this is, one of the reasons I bought this is I think Lenovo, I almost called them IBM, because these are really very similar to the old IBM ThinkPads. They haven't changed that much. Lenovo was selling, for 1 year only, the OLED version of this screen. This is a WQHD. Let me do my fingerprint right here so I can log in. Both of these have fingerprint readers. Let me just log in on that one. So on the right is the OLED screen. Let me see if I turn this up. No, let me turn it up a little bit. See if I can get the brightness levels the same. It's hard to do. This is the new HDR screen. This is also WQHD. That's the new screen. That's maybe now too bright, isn't it? The new screen on the Lenovo. It is Dolby Vision HDR. So in theory, if you're watching a movie, if you're watching something with HDR photos, this should look better. If you look at the OLED, it's a little more saturated. The colors are actually less natural. Look at this rock. It's really beautiful. Right. But it's got that typical OLED kind of oversaturation.
I mean, the sky over here looks more like a painting. And over here it looks more like a photo.
I think the HD screens are gorgeous. These are IPS LCD. They don't offer the OLED anymore. I think they're probably in short supply and they probably couldn't. So let's put away the OLED because I don't want to make anybody unhappy and talk about the third generation. So memory up to 16 gigabyte DDR3. They have I have a terabyte NVMe SSD drive, the Opal 2.0 drives in mine. That's also available for a higher price in the Yoga. The battery is a little smaller. It's 2 watt hours smaller. It's 54 watt hours, but you're going to get good battery life on this. Lenovo says 15.4 hours. I get about 5 or 6 hours. That's about what you'd expect when you read 15.4 hours. I get about a third of that. That's
Depressingly,
about
that is true, yes.
One thing they've done, though, that I really like, if you don't get the Hello camera, the infrared camera, they do have a shutter on the new Lenovo Yoga, and you can see there's a red dot there when I close the shutter. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't want to have that camera on, when you're doing something else, a physical shutter is the best way to do it. It's like putting tape over.
I wish we'd see this more often in laptops.
I think we're going to, frankly.
It feels like the time is right.
It's a nice feature. However, if you do want to get Windows Hello, and I like Windows Hello because I just look at the camera and it'll wake up, that shutter is not available because it needs an infrared camera as well, and I guess they just felt it wouldn't be possible. Still a fingerprint reader, but they've done something more. There's a secure enclave in here, so the fingerprint information is not available to the operating system at all, and it's FIDO, which means that's the fast identity online authentication, which means with the proper software, you'd be able to log on to websites, use this for payment. That's nice. That's exactly what you should do with a fingerprint reader. And frankly, I think with a fingerprint reader, I don't worry so much about Windows Hello. Sure. It's a nice thing to have. I don't have it on my old Yoga, but because the fingerprint's fast and effective and works very well. Let's see, what else? They've got far-field microphones. Everybody does now for Cortana, 360 degrees, works great across the room. Alexa is coming. Right now, it's just Cortana. I think that's the biggest difference. You lose a USB port, you gain a shutter, you've got the secure enclave for the fingerprint reader and FIDO support. That's really good news. But really, this is a great laptop. This is a great laptop last year. This is a great laptop this year. I spent an awful lot of extra. Too. Yeah, this thin and light, and yet it's roadworthy. Warrior worthy. The hinges are black now too. That's the fast. If you want to know, if you're going down the street and you say, "Gee, I wonder if that's a second generation or a third generation," that's how you can tell. Black hinges. This, like my second generation Yoga, does something that only a few computers do. This used to be a little more common. When you go into the tent mode, watch, the keys will retract. Ooh.
Oh.
All the way into the body, so there are no more, no accidental keystrokes. You can put it on something flat and the keys are not hitting. I like that feature. This seems to be a little bit of a smoother hinge than on my second generation Yoga, which is a little creaky to do that key retraction thing. Maybe mine's just getting a little older over time. But they've done a nice job. All in all, this is a computer you'd love. It starts at $1,700. This one has the i5. I honestly, I can't tell the difference in an i5 and an i7 between the 7th generation and the 8th generation.
I think the red dot in ThinkPad that glows when it's on. I actually think that's a pretty
you like
smart
that?
little feature. Yeah.
You like that? Yeah. I am very.
It's the little things.
I am a big ThinkPad fan. You're asking the wrong guy. If you want an honest review of the ThinkPad, I just love these things. They now have, because they have Thunderbolt 3 ports. They have a side dock instead of the dock that I'm using here on the older Lenovo's, the physical underneath dock. They don't have that port on the bottom anymore that you would dock with your, the old school docks. But Thunderbolt 3 is a great way to dock. And it's nice because these side docks are not as expensive as the big laptop docks that you put on there. There's the ThinkPad hybrid USB-C with USB-A dock for only $270. You might want to get an Ethernet dongle if you'd like to use hardwired Ethernet. You can't use it otherwise. I did buy that and I've never used it.
But you have it.
But I have it.
That one time.
I'm ready. The one time I carry it in my briefcase all the time. Definitely. Thumbs up on the Yoga. You know, the X1 Carbon, which is a little thinner and a little lighter, but doesn't have that 2-in-1 feature, is a nice choice as well. I just happen to love, on an airplane.
On an airplane, yeah, that's the perfect use case for something like that.
That is just a great way to watch movies.
Yeah.
This is the laptop I travel with all the time because it's thin, light, and it's a great way to watch movies. In fact, I'm going to be loading up my Yoga second generation with Netflix movies for our trip to Japan in a couple of weeks, and this should last me through most of the trip. I really like it. Highly recommend it.
Awesome.
2 calls for help coming up. First, Megan Morrone. She's known for her love for paper. The big problem with the bullet journal as she does, there's no backup. She loses the journal.
Oh. Well.
What is she going to take pictures of it with her phone? She's out of luck. She may have found a replacement. It's this new Moleskine Smart Writing System. Watch.
Leo, yes, I'm talking to you. Leo, you know how you always make fun of me because of my bullet journal and you say I should use an app instead because what if I lose the journal and then all of my to-dos and thoughts and project notes will be lost too? Why not use Evernote or Google Keep or Wanderlist or Microsoft To Do or blah-de-blah-de-blah, blah, 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 blah? Here is why. Because I like the act of physically writing, of putting pen to paper. It helps me get what's rambling around up here down here so that it makes more sense. There are also physiological reasons to write things down. That's right, science. Unlike typing, putting pen to paper stimulates our reticular activating system, or RAS. The RAS is a kind of brain filter telling your noggin what it needs to focus on and what it can ignore or forget. Write something down and you're less likely to ignore it or to forget it. But your words haunted me, Leo. What if I do lose my beloved bullet journal? Some days I've left it at home and I've felt totally lost without it. Therein lies the problem that the Moleskine Smart Writing System can solve for me and maybe for you too. You know those Moleskine notebooks that we've been loving for so long before bullet journaling was a thing? The ones we used to call Moleskine to feel Italian and smarter than everyone else before we realized they were, in fact, pronounced Moleskine, like the rodent. The Moleskine Smart Writing System is a specially designed notebook and pen that works with a smart pen and the Moleskine Notes app. First, you pair your pen with the phone or tablet. Then adjust the pen calibration so it matches your writing style. You write or draw whatever you want and poof, it's automatically recorded in the Moleskine Notes app. What kind of magic is this, you ask? The notebook contains specially coded paper technology that allows the pen to recognize exactly where it is on the paper and then send that information to the Moleskine app on your phone or your tablet. The Moleskine Notes app works with iOS, Android, and even your Windows 10 tablet or computer. Once your notes are in the app, you can edit the text, change the color, pen thickness, and more. Maybe you've heard of the Wacom Bamboo Spark that can also magically transfer pen and paper notes to a digital notebook. It's a nice notebook too, but it won't let you make all these edits to the final product. The Moleskine app will also transcribe your messy handwriting so you can share the text of your notes. The app has the ability to transcribe English, Chinese, simplified or traditional, French, Spanish, Russian, and many other languages. You can also share your notes in a PDF or a photo. The Smart Pen charges with the included micro USB cable, and if it ever runs out of battery and you don't have the power to charge it, you can still stimulate the reticular activating system by writing whatever you need to write, and then you can transfer the data later. At first glance, the notebook paper looks like normal paper, but look a little closer and you can see tiny dots that Moleskine calls N-code. The pen only works with this paper that comes in lined and dotted notebooks, as well as the Moleskine date book. The date book can add appointments directly to your Google, Outlook, or Apple calendars. This is great for those of us who like a day planner, but also appreciate a digital calendar that does all the fancy stuff we've come to rely on, like reminders of events and the ability to share calendars with family members and coworkers. I regularly have to sit down with my paper calendar and my Google calendar and make sure they're synced. It's a pain. Here are the pros and cons of the Moleskine Smart Writing System. Pros. I have always loved the Moleskine notebooks, and this one isn't any different. I love knowing that my information is backed up somewhere, and it's a huge time saver not to have to retranscribe notes and dates into my digital calendar from my paper calendar. The app is pretty smart. Transcription was relatively accurate, and it even knew what page I was on. Plus, the digital notebooks included in the app are very colorful and stylish. Now the cons. The Smart Writing System is not cheap. It will cost you $199, and that's just for one regular lined notebook, another small notebook, and the pen, and one pen refill. You'll have to buy a smart planner if you want to use the calendar feature, a bullet journal if that's your thing, and pen refills separately. Also, remembering to charge another device is not ideal. I left the pen at home once and I had to go right back to using my trusty old-fashioned ink pen like some sort of cave person. It was horrible. I also don't love how the pen feels when I'm writing. If you journal a lot, you get picky about pen feel. What do you think? If you've used the Moleskine Smart Writing Set, let me know your thoughts on it. And happy bullet journaling.
Wow. That is cool.
I think I'm sold.
It's too bad it's so expensive, but it is really cool beyond words. Did you see? I mean, if you weren't watching the video, she's writing in a notebook and it's tracking, it looked like in real time. It's as if she were writing on the screen.
Yeah.
You know, I've only recently started I have my hand, I don't have any muscles in my hand. All of the writing is long gone for me, but I've recently started sketching out, as I do programming problems, sketching out little screens and stuff, and I would love having those in the computer. So
it's magical watching it happen.
It's
in
really
real time
cool.
And transfer over. Yeah.
Wow.
Shame it's a little expensive, but it seems like once you pay the upfront price to get in the door,
then you just buy
the refills, aren't that expensive.
How did she said Moleskine?
She said Moleskine, which
Moleskine. That's wrong.
I never know. That's the problem. We will never know the answer.
Here, let's get the definitive answer.
Okay.
Moleskine. Moleskine.
That's some guy on YouTube.
Or Moleskine.
Okay, so what is it then?
So the CEO.
Moleskine.
Moleskine.
Moleskine. Moleskine.
Moleskine is, I think, correct.
Moleskine.
Moleskine. Moleskine.
I always say Moleskine.
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 Moleskine. All right, enough of the Moleskine.
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 Okay. Nice.
That's it.
Clear as mud.
Moleskine.
Now we know the answer.
There we go.
It's time for a call for help. Tom on the line. Hi, Tom. Oh, nice shirt, Tom.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, how's it
you
going?
always entertain me.
Thank you. From St. Louis, Missouri. I've got the peppers. You've got the butterflies.
I've got the butterflies. Yeah, I'm the butterfly guy. So I heard you talking on the Tech Guy how you were deleting your Facebook account. And I says, oh, no, Facebook is something that I love and I use it all the time. And I wondered, is there a way to just delete your data but to keep your Facebook account because I want to stay in contact with all these different people.
Yes, supposedly. But we just keep, here's another story just came out. This is from New York Magazine. Ever record a video on Facebook? Facebook still has it, even if you never posted it, even if it was an outtake, even if you said delete immediately after you recorded it. And the reason we know this is people have started downloading their data dumps from Facebook, which they can do now thanks to GDPR in the European Union. That's one of the things they require. And they're seeing all sorts of stuff. You saw the story that early versions of Android allowed the Facebook Messenger program to capture your call logs, who you called, when you called them, how long you talked, and saved it, stored it.
And because of those older versions of Android, it was pretty obscure to know that Facebook or Messenger actually had that capability. They've addressed it in later versions, but still, many people are being really surprised by what they're finding in those
Here's
archives.
where Google has a much better story. And people say, you know, look at Facebook and Google, same business model. Collect data about your users, sell it to advertisers. But Google has always historically had Google Takeout, which not only allowed you to download all your data, but to see all the data Google has about you, and very clearly, big button that says delete that data. Facebook does not have a delete this part of my data. In fact, it's very difficult. In fact, I've even seen articles from people who wrote scripts to delete the data, and it still didn't delete all the data because of how caching works on Facebook. So,
poison your data first.
Yeah.
This article
So
on Motherboard.
It's not possible, in my opinion, to sanitize your Facebook account. If you want to stay on Facebook, stay on Facebook. That's fine. Just remember that every time you use Facebook, you're giving them really much more information than name, address, who you're married to, in the things you like, even the articles you read.
The attention that you give.
The attention you give. You give much more information about yourself than you even know to Facebook. And this is the stuff that's really a little creepy. I don't so much mind if a company wants to give me advertising that's based on interests of mine, right? That's not, if, you know, Tom, you'd like to see butterflies in your Facebook ads, right?
You bet.
Yeah, that makes an ad better, not worse. So I don't think that's the problem. The problem is that they haven't been very careful about who gets this data. We think the Russian government got it, not just Cambridge Analytica, but it was then passed along to the Russian government and then used to promote articles, to show you ads that were targeted not just at where you live or your age or your demographics, but your mental state. If you were depressed or manic, it advertised to that mental state. And that's, to me, a bridge too far. That's gone too far. And that's why I'm deleting my Facebook account. Now, that doesn't delete anything because they say you delete your account and that over a period of months, data will be deleted. But I think there's still plenty of evidence that no matter what you do, Facebook holds on to it. There's also the bigger issue that as you travel around, even if you have no Facebook account, every page you go to that has a Facebook like button or a Facebook logon button is telling them you're visiting that site, and they're collecting a shadow profile of you, even if you're not a customer.
Not to mention, I mean, there are also other people sharing information that includes you. So even if none of that is happening, you have a lot of connections with people that might include you in that information. There's information there for Facebook.
So in my opinion, there's really only two things an individual can do. One is, as a signal to Facebook, delete your account.
Sure.
That doesn't save you any privacy or anything. It's just a signal saying, I don't trust you.
Maybe.
And it makes you feel better, but I don't think it's a strong signal to Facebook. Even though, you know, people pointed out probably more people join internationally than leave in the US. Nevertheless, that's one thing you can do. But the most important thing we can all do is we could say, Facebook needs to be regulated. Facebook, there needs to be rules against, you know, companies are going to collect your information. That's always happening. Hundreds of companies do it. There need to be rules about what they can do. And I think, frankly, I was skeptical about the General Data Protection Regulations in Europe, the GDPR, which goes into effect in May, in a couple of months. I think that's actually a good step. I think one of the reasons we're seeing things like the ability to delete your Facebook account or down your data is because in Europe they're requiring that. And I think those laws, as complicated as they are a good step forward. We need to protect ourselves, and it's going to have to be done legally because, frankly, Facebook right now is beholden to no one and does whatever they want, whether you're on Facebook or not.
Absolutely.
And we've already given them decades of data. So,
and we see what they want to do with that data and how to use all of that data to benefit them.
They don't care.
And then it spirals out of their direct control.
Right.
But it doesn't really matter because they kind of already got what they wanted. One article that we do link to in the show notes here from the EFF is how to change your Facebook settings to opt out of platform API sharing.
That's a great idea.
This was the thing that I've been afraid to do because there are certain sites that we've subscribed to over the years that require a Facebook login, right? And so
let me tell you, it's not, now that I've deleted my Facebook account, life is much harder. All of those logins are gone.
Yeah.
I have to re-log in a lot of cases.
So if you go into your settings in Facebook, if you're still going to stick around with Facebook, but you want to like trim the fat, so to speak, settings menu and then look for apps. And I think you will be amazed at how many apps probably are on that page and connected to Facebook and the data that they actually have access to. And B, how many of those apps you haven't even thought of, you don't even know what it is. It's been there for years and it's had all that information, that direct access all that time. Right before the show I went in there, I think I had 150 things listed there. I went through piece by piece and eventually I just selected them all, deleted access. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna deal with the ramifications because I just don't want this anymore.
It would be worth downloading your data dump from Facebook. Everybody watching should do that, just to know what Facebook knows about you, what kinds of things they collect. It's very valuable. I don't even think it's complete. I think there's psychological profile material that doesn't show up there.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, you'll get the raw data. This is what you liked, but that doesn't tell you what they're figuring out from what you liked.
Yep.
I understand why people are going to stay on Facebook, and I think that's fine. And by the way, it's not just Facebook.
Right.
Comcast does this all the time. If they're your internet service provider, or AT&T and Verizon, they let the federal government spy on you without, willy-nilly, without warrant. They collect data about you all the time and sell it to third parties. They all do this. So that's why I think regulation, and I don't even have the highest hopes for that working, but that's the only real alternative we have. There's just, if you're sharing online, you're sharing it publicly with everybody. Everybody needs to understand that. And that even something as simple as a like or taking a Facebook quiz is sending out a big amount of data about you that they may misuse against you.
These companies might have great intentions, but you don't know that historically down the line where that leads, what kind of influence comes into play, how that inadvertent access that happens down the line. Who knows? But I mean, but then I guess the question that you have to ask yourself is where you actually draw the line. Like, I host a show called All About Android that is all about, the many ways that Google does a lot of the same things that Facebook does. Harvest your data to use it to provide a service that's beneficial and valuable to you. You have to ask yourself, that question. Is it valuable enough to me that I feel okay handing over everything about my identity? And I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, I kind of feel like I'm in a strange position where I feel very kind of dirty and wrong about Facebook. But then I look over at Google and I'm like, yeah, but they're doing a lot of the same stuff too. Like, why is it okay? Why do I feel okay with that?
Yeah.
And maybe I don't.
We're starting to also see government overreach. This visa thing. In China now, you have a social score.
Oh, yes.
And if your social score falls too low, as an example, there's apparently, I guess, a big jaywalking problem. And they're actually going to lower your social score if you have too many jaywalking offenses. And how do they know you have a jaywalking offense? Because they have cameras on the intersections in Shenzhen, China, and the cameras have face recognition. And so they add you to their database. And then when you get too many, you get dinged, which means you won't be able to buy plane tickets, train tickets, bus tickets. You won't be able to get a home loan. It completely, and I think China is just the beginning of all of this. So this is
the model.
And you may say, well, I live in the US, the land of the free, the home of the brave. It's probably fine. I should point out that the Netherlands was the land of the free, the home of the brave. In pre-World War II, they had a registry in which they registered all the citizens, including religious affiliation. And when the Nazis occupied the Netherlands, the first place they went is to those registries. And that's how they found Jewish people in Holland. You just don't know. And so we're giving away this information. This is a conversation that has become extremely important in the United States. And I don't know what the answer is. Deleting Facebook for me is not about hiding because my information's out there. I know it's out there. It's really about making a statement to Facebook. I understand why people don't want to do it. My wife thinks I'm crazy.
I mean, I realize we've talked a lot about like deleting Facebook and everything. As far as addressing your particular question, as far as like continuing to use Facebook but not allowing that data to exist there, I don't know if there's an easy, like that's probably why we don't have a specific answer for you, because I think Facebook probably very intentionally makes that not a very easy thing to do.
There is a new Firefox extension that is pretty interesting that sandboxes Facebook. Isn't that cool? And a lot of people have been talking about this. So you might, at least, Tom, going forward, start using this. You'd have to use Firefox. I like to use Chrome, but I guess if you want to be private, Chrome's probably a bad idea too. So I guess, you know, it's funny how some people trust Google but don't trust, you know, you and I trust Google, right?
I know, exactly. That's
doing the same thing.
Totally.
Yeah, so I would look at that Firefox extension. Firefox is really good for people who want to preserve their privacy. There's a lot of, and this comes from the folks at Firefox Mozilla, the Facebook container, they call it, and it prevents Facebook from tracking you. So even if you aren't on Facebook, this will prevent that kind of shadow dossier that Facebook builds around you as well.
All right, thanks, Leo. Thanks, Jason.
Great to talk to you.
Have a terrific day.
I hope that helps.
You too. Happy Easter.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Happy Easter.
It's butterfly season. Yeah. I felt good about that. Let's do another. What do you say?
Yeah,
Call
it
for
feels
help
right.
number 2.
Feels right.
And we go to Mike, who is on the road from Ottawa to New Brunswick for Easter. Hi, Mike.
What?
Uh-oh. Let's see if we can get his audio working here. We're going to call you right back. Privacy Badger, yeah, another very good choice. That's from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. That also will control.
Are we back?
Yeah, that's better.
Hey there.
Cool. How's it going?
It's good. Thanks for pulling over. I wouldn't want to lose any viewers. We don't have that many to lose.
No, we just arrived at our destination, so perfect timing.
Oh, excellent.
Happy Easter in New Brunswick.
And happy Easter to you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What can we do for you?
Well, I mean, this kind of follows on the tail of your last question there. I've been thinking a lot lately about how much information I give to Facebook, and the whole conversation you just had makes me think about it even more. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to get the good information out of Facebook without all the extra cat memes and poisonous political stuff.
I know you know that I use Nuzzle because I saw that in your email. But look what happened once I left Facebook. I go to my Nuzzle account and it says, "Hey, there's a problem."
There's a problem.
So what that's telling me is that Nuzzle, which is I really like it as a news aggregator. I use my Facebook and my Twitter feed in there, and I don't see any of the garbage. I just see the stories that people I follow on Facebook and Twitter put.
It's become a daily use tool.
Wonderful.
For me. Yeah.
Little political these days, but that's that's.
Well, but that mirrors largely mirrors who you're following, and that's kind of the point, right? I don't even have mine logged into Facebook. It's purely logged into Twitter. Well, yeah, and you don't know.
I have to say, as much as I hate Twitter, Twitter is a good alternative to any other social media. They aren't collecting information particularly about you, right?
Well, that's a great question.
But what information do they have about you?
Yeah.
You can be completely anonymous on Twitter. If you're worried, make a spurious account. You don't have to let them have location data. Don't favorite stuff. That's a signal. I mean, you can use Twitter pretty anonymously. I know, because everybody who hates me does. But you're still getting the news signals, especially if you follow judiciously.
Yeah, and that's the most important part. So like when I go into Nuzzle, I end up seeing, I don't have to filter through my feed, and I used to have it connected to Facebook, but I actually pulled more valuable information from my follows on Twitter than I did from my follows on Facebook, because I use Facebook for family primarily and not really as a news source. But I don't see any of the the meme stuff unless the meme stuff becomes a big story, in and of itself. It's just a really valuable way to take note of what all of the people that you're following are actually sharing, and it will realize, hey, 10 or 12 of the people that you're following on Twitter or Facebook all shared this one story. So we'll bundle it up. Here's the story. It must be important because they're all sharing it, and here's what they all had to say about it below as well. So you get a lot of really some extra context, and it's a specific use case, right? You're not filtering through all the other noise on that particular social network to get it.
I also feel like, and this is kind of crazy, but Mike Elgin kind of convinced me on Wednesday, Google Plus is not a bad, it's still alive, folks. It's got a little bit of a spam problem, but in some respects, because it's less occupied, its kind of quality has kind of gone up with Google Plus because you can block spammers and report them. While you'll see some spam, you can get rid of it pretty darn quickly. And the quality of material, of course, like Twitter and Facebook too, depends on who you're following. But they still have very active communities, photographic communities, news communities. There's still great stuff. And I mean, if this is my Google Plus feed, it's pretty clean. Now, admittedly, I'm giving signals to Google, not quite the same. But the truth is, everybody already if you have a Google account, you already have a Google Plus account. You're not signing up for anything you're already signed up for.
Right.
Google stopped reading email about a year ago, right? They no longer scan through your email. I think Google is looking at Facebook and going, dodged a bullet there. And any social network at this point is probably thinking, how can we not have that happen to us, right?
Although it's probably going to be the case that Google and the other companies at Facebook's level are going to be swept into this, the after effects of this craziness.
I'll tell you a couple of other communities I get my news from. I know you want the quality stuff. Believe it or not, somebody's going to laugh at this, but I think Reddit actually is very good if you follow the right subreddits.
Yep, absolutely
right?
agree.
And that's completely up to you, the Reddits that you want to follow. But if you follow good subreddits, you're going to get good quality news in here. In fact, I find it a really great place. One of the reasons I'm a Lenovo fan is I follow the Lenovo fans subreddit, and that kind of got me going on Lenovo. And then one more place for news that is not widely known, but I really like, and it's called Hacker News. It's something created by Y Combinator, which is a startup incubator Paul Graham created. And they have a news feed, news.ycombinator.com. that is fantastic. It has karma, it has voting. Because it's Y Combinator, it's geeks. So it's got a very geek-heavy information base.
Yeah, there's a lot of threads in there that go well over my head, that's for sure.
But I feel like if I
they're
follow
very passionate
Reddit,
and knowledgeable,
I still use Nuzzle, follow Twitter, follow Hacker News. Of course, I go to places like TechMeme. I feel like I am well caught up on what's going on, certainly in technology.
Sure.
And I think that there was a great article this week in Wired about newsreaders. RSS apparently is back. What? How could that be? So the Wired article about newsreaders says, what happened was Google killed it because Google, when it created Google Reader, got everybody to go to Google Reader and then killed it. So they put basically all of the RSS aggregators that were out there, they put out of business, and then they killed Google Reader. Feedly kind of took over a lot of that. There are a few others. But there's as Wired puts it, the green shoots of a renaissance in RSS readers is coming. And I think that might be really good news. And I think that this Facebook debacle may be one of the reasons that this brings back RSS, because nobody's following you on RSS. So they recommended a number of RSS readers. I'm going to try one. I use Feedly, but I want to try one called Ino Reader, which a lot of hardcore geeks say is a really great source. Again, this is going to depend on who what feeds you add to this. But I think this is another way that you can keep up on what's going on and not necessarily haunt the Facebook. And look, studies have shown Facebook depresses people. You spend time on Facebook. Even Facebook admitted this. They said, yes, we know, our studies show people are getting depressed because they're spending time on Facebook. So don't.
There you go.
I feel so much, I can't tell you how much better I feel. I spend a minimum amount of time on Twitter. no time on Facebook, and my life has changed.
I really love Google Plus. So
See?
if I could just convince other people to move over there, it'd be perfect.
So there's not going to be anything for sharing with family and friends that can replace Facebook, because that's where they all are, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what we do about that. My wife's furious with me because she says now on her Facebook profile it says Lisa Laporte is married, but doesn't say to whom, because Leo Laporte's not there anymore. So it's, and you know, if you ever leave Facebook, they put pictures of all your friends and they say your friends are going to be sorry that you're leaving. You want to tell them why? They're horrible. This is, what, stop the insanity, you know? It's crazy. Anyway, Tom, Mike, I'm sorry. It's great to talk to you. Happy Easter in New Brunswick. What are you going to do? Do you have Easter egg hunts up there, or what are you going to do?
Well, actually, the trip was the other way around. We came from New Brunswick to Ottawa. So,
Ottawa, man.
I don't know what the plans are yet, but I'm sure it'll be fun.
Have a great
Sounds
time.
like it.
You're visiting family?
Thanks very much, guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Staying with my sister-in-law.
Have fun.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Take care.
Nice talking with you.
Do you feel, I mean, what do you do? Because we're in a different position. We need to kind of have our finger on the pulse of the world.
Yeah. What do I do to follow the news and keep up to date?
Do you spend time on Facebook these days?
Well, no. I mean, I stepped away from Facebook December 2016, I guess it was.
Wow,
so
you remember it.
Through 2017. Yeah, it was like December 1st. I was like, you know what? I put out the blast email to say, hey, you're not going to find me using Facebook.
You still have an account, but you don't
still
log
have an
in.
account, but I didn't log in for a full year.
Nice.
I've logged in maybe 3 times since December for random reasons. And I'm at the point right now where, you know, all this stuff is happening. I'm really asking myself, like, why do I still have the account? Or does it just not matter because I'm not using it? Like, I don't really know what I'm going to do with the Facebook. But when it comes to news, I never used Facebook for that. It was always Twitter and Twitter Moments, actually, for random fun stuff to just check in on the pulse. But Nuzzle, I mean, hands down, has become one of my favorite tools for that.
I have to admit, to this day, if somebody, you know, I hear somebody down the hall saying, did you hear which celebrity just passed away? I will immediately go to Twitter. That's where you find out who's
That's where you're going to find the immediate kind of...
Sometimes they're not even dead.
Right.
But that's the price you pay.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something to be said for all this social sharing. There is value in it. I'm not saying there's not value in it.
There's just a lot of noise, and for me, like the busier I get with life, the less I want to filter through things myself in order to find the cream that's risen to the top.
I'm with Mike.
Nuzzle helps me do that.
I'd love to see Google Plus kind of make a little resurgence. Mike Elgin says this is their moment.
Man, but
Google doesn't care.
Yeah, I just don't see Google caring at this point. They've been there, done that. They're moving on. I mean, it'll continue to be what it is, but I don't see Google Plus.
I feel like this is a big national conversation now, and everybody's kind of, at least among our set. I don't know if the average people on the street know or care about these issues with Facebook, but I feel like this is a conversation that's happening.
I do think that the average person on the street, at least in my time away on vacation, you know, visiting some family and being able to talk to people who are not technology followers, they definitely understand that Facebook's going through some pretty serious stuff right now, and that there's certain things to be concerned with.
And they're thinking about it, which
and they're
is
thinking
really
about
good.
it, which they weren't before. The problem, I think the challenge in that, though, is that all this Cambridge Analytica stuff, it's complicated enough that even those of us who are close to the information,
it's very complicated.
It's complicated and it's difficult to really explain why this is a big deal. So then, you know, that passes down like a game of telephone to people who don't follow this for a living, and they might be struggling to figure out, okay, but is this that big a deal? Like, I know I'm giving them lots of information. The information I give them isn't that bad. You know, there's nothing bad in that information, so why should I care? And so I don't know if it actually motivates a change.
I think
but they're definitely aware of something going on.
That's the big thing out there, is that people don't understand. They say, well, they know my age and my location, so what? But they don't understand every search you do on Google tells them a huge amount about you. Every like you do on Facebook tells them a huge amount about you. And in the aggregate, all of those thousands of searches you've done on Google, all of those thousands of likes you've done on Facebook, actually paint a very, very clear portrait of who you are. And that can really be misused against you. I don't know what the answer is to it. I really don't. I wish we did. Good conversation, though. Thanks for both of our callers. If you want to be on our show next week, Ian Thompson will be here. Got questions about weird British colloquialisms? Here's how you ask.
Need tech help? The new screensavers are here with answers. Email your tech questions to newscreensavers@twit.tv.
Woo! So check this out. If you want to escape the reality of now and jump into the world of VR,
please,
maybe a little bit different than what you've experienced before, you might actually like this. I went down to Mountain View with Anthony. We checked out the Silicon Valley virtual reality. It's like a meetup space.
You're Mr. VR guy now.
Apparently,
you do all
I am.
the weird VR stories.
But you know what? You know what? I'm totally okay with that. Like, I don't own a VR setup at home, but I love being able to do this stuff because I was the guy, the kid that watched Lawnmower Man when I was younger, and I was like, I can't wait for that. I was the guy that watched Strange Days and the transporting your mind or hacking your mind to experience somebody else's visceral experience, and I was like, in the future that will happen, and I am so there.
I want that.
So I love being close to this stuff. But anyways, they have an omnidirectional treadmill set up in the space. And if you go see, like we said earlier, Ready Player One that just launched in theaters this weekend, you're going to actually see this treadmill. I got to check it out in VR. It's pretty cool stuff. Let's watch it. Every time I get the chance to step into a new world in virtual reality, it seems like it goes up another level to another level, and I just have so much fun doing it. So that's why I'm really excited to be here with Ben Freeman, CEO of Infinadeck, because we're going to, take a look at this awesome treadmill, this like next generation treadmill behind me. It's all about enhancing the VR experience and taking it to the next level, right?
It's giving you the opportunity to walk and experience VR at a totally different world. So you can walk through it in any direction. You can move around and spin around and see what's going on in
awesome.
VR. So.
Because it's all about this immersive quality. It's very easy with VR, what we've seen the last couple of years, to feel like it's kind of there, but not quite, because you're still kind of fixated in one position, and maybe you're controlling with your hands, but that's not how we live life. We live life by walking from one point to the other, and having a virtual world be able to resemble that part of reality takes it one step further. By the way, I have tickets to see Ready Player One. You're probably going to recognize this technology if you go to see the movie. So I'm really excited to see that, which makes me even more excited to check it out. What do I need to know before I step on it?
So you're going into a totally different world. You're going to have to effectively learn how to rewalk, in virtual reality.
Okay.
Kids learn this in seconds, and as adults, it takes us a little bit longer to go for on this. But what we'll do is we'll get you on the treadmill. We'll walk around without the headset first, and then so you can see how it feels like.
Okay.
And then really, it's just natural walking. But the reality is that your brain isn't connected to your feet when you can't see your feet, and it's a trust thing. So,
but in the experience, I'm going to see any sort of representation of my body.
So that's part of how we solve some of these problems, is that you'll see your entire body in the experience. You'll be a robot.
Okay.
And you'll be able to see your robot feet, your robot hands, and walking through it. And you'll also be able to see the support ring there, so if you get a little nervous, you can reach out and grab it.
That's like my way of reconnecting with the reality outside of virtual reality.
Correct.
Essentially.
And having that mental support for yourself helps you enjoy the experience so much more.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited. So, Ben, do I just walk up here and get started?
Yep, let me take the headset from you and get you going first, real quick.
All right, I'm very tall, so this might be a little awkward. Have you ever had someone as tall as me on this?
How tall are you?
6'8".
Nope.
Yes. Okay. All right. What do I need to know?
All right. So, George, you all set?
Yeah.
Okay. So, face me. Okay. So the first time you're going to do it, I'm going to have you hold onto the railing.
All right.
So you just get a good balance. Okay. So the way this works is it's based on your center of gravity. So you have a tracker that's right on your lower back, which is pretty close to your center of gravity.
Yep.
We're using HTC Vive trackers for all of this.
Got it.
So right now your feet trackers are really just there to show your robotic feet, so you can see your body in VR. We'll use those later when we get the headset on. So now just, relax, hold on to the railing. When he starts, the system is going to center you. And then after it does that, you can start walking.
Okay.
When you start walking, I'll give you a tip. How do you normally walk? You don't walk looking down, you look straight ahead.
Sure.
So walk looking straight ahead. With your hands out to the sides, it'll help keep your balance.
Okay.
If you put them out in front, you'll start to lean a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's not natural.
Right.
So just try to keep them out to your side a little bit, and you should be good. All right.
All right.
You ready?
I think so.
Here you go.
Okay.
So you just got centered, and just go ahead and walk.
I'm not even going to look down. If I walk faster, it's going to move faster in any direction?
If you walk faster, it'll move faster.
Okay. Oh, I want to slow down, turn around. Wow. And I mean, there's a little bit of adjustment for sure. Like obviously the floor is moving underneath me, so I'm trying to
It's that mental comfort with the system.
Yeah, right. But I mean, ultimately, it's keeping me where it needs to keep me. Like, one thing I wondered is if I move too fast, would I move off the treadmill in any way? I mean, that's part of where this comes in handy, right?
And with this demonstration, we do have it the speed turned down a little bit, so you can just walk at a certain pace. If it's at full speed, you can actually run about 8 miles an hour on this.
Wow. And how much time would it take, I'm imagining it's in milliseconds, for the system to detect my intention to run versus walk?
It's pretty instantaneous. It's based on your center of gravity. If you hang onto the rail, look down at your feet.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. And I did notice, I mean, even when I wasn't hanging onto the rail, if I, for a split second, decided I was going to start shifting my view downward, it totally throws me off. Yeah. But that's not an issue when you're actually in the VR experience.
No. It's actually harder to walk without it.
Right.
Because you're thinking about it. Like walking on the diagonal, everyone thinks is really weird. It's actually harder to walk on the diagonal and you focus more on it when you're walking on the diagonal without the headset on.
Got it.
When you're in VR, you don't notice it at all.
That's cool. All right, I think I feel slightly more comfortable now, and I think I can do this.
So we're going to drop this into your pocket here.
All right, that's like a battery pack.
It's a battery pack for your headset.
Okay.
Slide it on your face first, and there you go. Adjust that so it's in a good position.
All right, I'm seeing a grassy plain. And I have a visual representation of both my hands and my arms in here, but I also have the controllers themselves. I will also say that there aren't many VR experiences where I've looked down and saw my feet moving the
Just
way
like
that
the ring, being able to see your body helps you feel comfortable and not lose your balance and things like that.
Makes me want to kick something. But I won't, because I've got expensive technology connected to my feet. All right.
You all set?
I think so.
Okay, so same thing. You're holding off to the side.
Okay.
Onto the ring a little bit.
Yep.
It's going to center you, and then you can start walking once you feel comfortable. So I'd say hold on to the ring a little bit.
just to start off with. Now, one question that I've had about this particular aspect of things, like emulating real-world walking experience, is that in the real world, when we walk from point A to point B, it's kind of boring, because it takes a long time to get from point A to point B. How, in a virtual sense, do we keep the fast-moving pace of video games that we expect?
So what we can do is the way it's mapped, your steps that you're taking in virtual reality and real reality can be mapped at different speeds. If you're a character that's 2 inches tall and you're in a big scene, your gait on your step is very different than the gait if you're Godzilla walking through Tokyo.
Oh, so you can have my movement actually track faster, because right now I feel like I'm going relatively slow compared to...
Well, right now you're actually walking up a hill.
Okay, so it's more effort.
Yep.
And if I try and go up there...
It's a little too steep for you to make it up.
So I feel like I want to jump up there, but I can't.
So I'd say walk across it or down the hill.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and walk down the hill. So, okay, and explain this experience a little bit. What am I looking at? I imagine you guys have created this tailored to this hardware. How did you create it? What do you have going on here?
So we're using Unity to develop this for the software environment, and it's kind of an environment that we found in there that we like to use, and developed it just as a simple demonstration of what it's like to walk through a world. We have a couple other worlds that we can have people go through. This is one that we really like.
So when you're talking about a moving floor, obviously there is a balance perspective, which is evident by the fact that I never let go, because I'm slightly nervous about letting go, right? It takes some getting used to moving free form without holding on. But when it comes to doing things in VR that we're so accustomed to doing, which is like full freedom, right? Getting super close to something down here. It's part of our nature to want to get down and smell the roses. How much training does someone have to do for that to be comfortable while standing on a moving floor?
So that's a really tough challenge to do, believe it or not, because you've got to have a tracking system that can recognize the difference between crouching, falling, and walking or moving in a specific direction. So that's one of the development challenges that we're still addressing, and the world is still addressing, to how to manage those kind of challenges.
Sure. I mean, I definitely having the kind of border to hold on to really helps that. It allows me to kind of feel comfortable ducking down. Doing it without, there's a lot of trust there that everything's going to go okay.
I mean, imagine leaning over to tie your shoes, right?
Be a little bit of a challenge. Or ducking down because someone's shooting from the top there. In a video game and VR world, you want to be able to move as quick as we're used to moving. And certainly on something like this, it takes a little bit of getting used to. And speaking of kind of the software aspect of things, obviously you guys created this to show off the hardware. What about third-party developer access? You probably want a lot of people to create experiences that tap into this. You have an SDK. Talk a little bit about that.
So earlier this week, we had our kind of global launch party for launching our SDK. So there's an application on our website that you can apply and become a partner of ours to develop for this. So our goal is to let anybody and everybody who wants to make a program or an application for this environment to join us and work with us to enhance the VR experience.
Mm-hmm. What's the end game here? Do you want this to be something that anyone can purchase and have in their living room because they're just that passionate about VR, or is this more about like experience centers, going to a recreation center, throwing a bunch of people into a VR world where they can walk freely and compete against each other, that sort of thing?
Sure. Our plan right away is to launch this for VR gaming centers throughout the world and work with medical device companies. We believe there's a lot of potential for physical therapy, stroke recovery, relearning how to walk after part of your body has been paralyzed, corporate training, firefighter training, where firefighters can have a training center with 5 or 10 of these, and they can set their whole gear, get on their whole gear, and walk through a house as it's burning.
Wow, I can't even, I hadn't even considered the kind of the therapeutic aspects of this kind of technology. You could give someone legs that maybe doesn't have them in the real sense, or give someone mobility, let's say, that might not have that type of mobility in the real world. And it just takes that VR experience one step further. This is really cool stuff. I love it.
Along with our software development, we've also got beta systems that we're going to try to ship before the end of the year. So we can get units in VR centers, medical device manufacturers, work with partners to get these out to the public.
When could people possibly start seeing these things in places that they go?
We hope sometime next year that we'll have some of these in some VR centers.
All right, cool. Let me see here. Gotta loosen the mask and come back into reality where the ground is not moving. This is really cool stuff. You guys have got to be super proud of the big week that you've had and kind of where this is headed.
Yeah, we're really excited about this. I mean, this is, in our opinion, groundbreaking technology. This is something that we can help make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And both for entertainment and therapies and just help people throughout. It's a really exciting time for us and really exciting time for everybody.
Yeah, well, VR is just undergoing explosive growth right now, and it's cool to kind of see that virtual world expand into new places that really felt like science fiction 20 years ago, and we're there right now, and you guys are kind of leading the charge on this type of expansion of that experience. It's really cool talking with you. Ben Freeman, CEO of Infinadeck. Best of luck. I hope that we see these in places soon that I take my kids, because I know they'd love to give it a spin too.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
All right, now tell the truth. Were you sick as a dog after you got off that thing?
No, there was the standard kind of like kind of conditioning myself to reality versus being in there. One thing that I noticed, and I'm sure they mentioned in the interview, Ben mentioned in the interview, that they're not software people, they're hardware people. So that software demo was really something that they put together, but they envisioned third-party developers coming up with something a lot more fine-tuned. Because I definitely noticed, like, when you bring your actual leg movement into the VR experience, you expect from your first-person perspective for the world to move around you at the same pace that it does in reality, right? Based on how fast you're walking. And if I was looking down at my feet and walking like normal, things felt right. If I looked up and looked out into the horizon and everything, things seemed like they were moving way slower than they would in reality.
Right.
Even though when you saw from a third-person perspective, things looked like I was moving normally in that virtual environment. Being in there, seeing it in 3D,
didn't feel that way.
It didn't feel like the world was moving as fast as it does.
Right.
So I guess there's some considerations to be made.
Well, it's early days yet. They're just starting. It solves a big problem. I think people forget that virtual reality, you can't really move around.
Yeah.
When you're wearing a VR headset, you only have a small amount of area, and so they all have come up with crazy ways of moving, like you point your controller at a place, press the button, and you zip over there. None of that is natural. So if we're going to see anything like Ready Player One, we're going to have some way of doing this. I wonder, these mechanical solutions look so clunky, but it's early days.
Yeah, sure. Right. Everything has to evolve from something, and it's just kind of cool to see that this thing actually does exist, right?
It's not made up for the movie.
Exactly.
Did they make it because of the movie?
What's that? No. As far as I understand, the producers of Ready Player One reached out to them a few years ago.
Knowing that they had to solve this.
Yeah, that they had to represent it and, on the screen.
Very interesting. Very cool.
Go.
You get to do all the fun stuff.
I know. Thank you.
Let's do something fun right now. Let's open the mailbag. Here it is, the rolling screensavers rural route mailbox.
Oh, what we got in there?
And more Tech TV memorabilia. No, this is Twit. Oh, this is a nice one. Look at this.
Oh, wow.
This is Anthony designed this, didn't he? Yeah, very nice, Anthony. Love that. Can we get this on the Twit store? We offer this and many of our other great designs at twit.tv/store. And there's caps, and there's the Crazy Steve mustache mug.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Nice. These are really. By the way, this is a new store for us. We got a new vendor, and I think the quality of the T-shirt's really nice.
Yeah, it's a nice.
It's not just an ironed-on decal. That's really printed. That's silk screen on it, and so forth. Very nice.
Nice stuff.
All right, mailbag time, and you get to pick your poison.
How about this one
here? I have email number 1, which I do roughly half the time. Coincidence?
How that works?
I don't know.
That's strange.
Al writes, cheers. Hey, new screensavers. I listen to many podcasts. Good for you. Way to go. Behalf of the podcast industry, we thank you.
We appreciate you.
And looking for a program to manage my subscriptions across my desktop PC, Samsung tablet, and Samsung phone. So Windows and Android. When I listen to an episode on one device, I'd like it to be removed from all of them. Do you have any suggestions? Keep up the show. I love it. Cheers, Al. I bet you know a few.
Well, I know of the one that I use.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Pocket Cast?
Pocket Cast.
Pocket Cast.
Absolutely, because Pocket Cast is a great cross-platform solution. They even have it on desktop. I think you pay a one-time fee of $9 and you can get your podcasts on the desktop. But I mean, the magic of that, of course, is that you sign in, it syncs between your devices, it pulls in the podcasts that you have subscribed to, your settings, all that kind of stuff, and it keeps track of your play point on all of these things. So like my history within Pocket Cast shows me all the podcasts that I've listened to of a particular show or all the episodes. And if I didn't make it all the way through, it's got a play point. Even if it's not downloaded to my device, I know that I only made it halfway through that and I could probably download it and pick up where I left off.
It's iOS and Android.
Yep.
Does it? I don't know the answer though. His specific question of if you delete it on one, does it delete it on the other?
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily does an automatic deletion across multiple
But
devices.
what I have it set for is delete when I've listened to it.
Right.
So as long as it's keeping track of whether you've listened to it, once you've listened to it on any platform, it'll delete it on all of them. That's probably all you want, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I don't know if it ends up deleting on all of them or not. But I do know that it will track the play point, and it makes a very visual representation of that. So on your other device, you'll see that you've already listened to it.
By the way, that's an RSS feed. Makes podcasts possible, right?
Yeah.
And podcasts can do this because you create an account. This will only be possible in a podcast app where you create an account. And generally that means you're going to pay for it.
Because I can't remember if the actual app itself, it's a paid app. It's
which
not
is
very
fine. I
expensive.
don't mind paying for it. He does a great job with it, and I appreciate all the work he puts into it. There are iOS apps that will do the same thing, but they're not cross-platform. They don't work on Samsung. So it works on iOS, Samsung, and Windows.
Yep, absolutely. I've got email number 2 from a guy named Bob.
Hey,
It
Bob.
actually says that, guy named Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Says, I just bought my wife a Pixel 2. Part of the advantage of using that phone is Google offers free unlimited storage of uncompressed photos and videos. Does this apply to media uploaded from the phone only, or can she take advantage of this by uploading from the desktop as well, and how can one tell? And the answer, and P.S. say hi to Dev Noel for me.
No, really?
The answer
Bob.
The answer to this is it only counts if it's coming from the phone itself. But it's not like an account-wide upgrade. It's detecting your device.
I will say this. You're not getting full quality, but you're not getting much degraded quality.
Absolutely.
So I just treat all photos, Google Photos stuff, as unlimited free storage, period. Because the only difference, they don't charge you ever. The only difference is they say they downgrade it, but they don't downgrade it unless it's huge.
Right.
And I've never noticed any downgrade on anything that I upload. So I'm perfectly happy uploading it from anywhere and not worrying about that.
Do you really think you're going to go to that one random picture from 5 years ago and blow it up so that's the size of a wall?
Actually, I do all the time.
Really?
And I'll tell you why I do. Partly because I'm lazy and I don't have the discipline of processing my photos when we come back from a trip. But also, I frequently use Google's search capability. I was just looking for pictures of China, which my son and I went to in 2009. We were talking about it. And I found a picture and I thought, oh, this is a great picture. I should print this. So I do all the time.
But how big do you make them when you print them out?
Well, you've seen my fracture me. That's
okay. All right.
But they look great. I think Google, and sometimes you'll make a photo book and stuff. I have never had a problem with the quality of Google Photos, ever. The only problem I ever have is duplication. So, for instance, the other day I took photos, and I often will do this while I'm on the trip. I will copy my camera to the phone using the software, in this case the Sony software provided. It will then upload that copy, and then when I get home I'll upload the RAW via my computer, and now I have 2 copies of the same picture. One's pretty good quality, one's less good quality.
And Google sees them as distinctly different pictures, even though they are the same.
I have them both, so I see a lot of duplication, and I have to.
It'd be nice if Google opted for the higher res version.
Yeah, I understand.
Ejected the
they
other
don't
one,
want to delete.
They don't want to make that decision.
No.
Yeah. Because you just never know. Maybe your intention was to keep both.
And since the storage is free, why not keep them all?
Yep.
Right.
Might as well.
Jason Howell is the host of All About Android every Tuesday, 5:30, thereabout 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern.
Whenever
time.
we feel like it. No, it's 5 o'clock, I think, 5 p.m. Pacific on the calendar.
Yeah.
But that's usually when pre-show starts.
Yeah.
We usually get the thing actually going somewhere around 5:30.
Nice.
Yeah. We have a lot of
Tune
fun.
in. It's great with Ron Richards, Florence Ion, of course, this guy here. Although we missed you last week, I tell you, it's not the same without you. No more vacations for Jason Howell.
Oh, but I had so much fun at Disney World.
Is that where you went?
Yes.
Florida?
And, okay, by the way, just real quick, because it kind of ties in with the interview. Went to Animal Kingdom, and in Animal Kingdom, they have an avatar ride, and it's one of those big 3D IMAX things where you actually ride on the back of a banshee, and you get on this almost motorcycle looking thing.
And it's going like this,
And the idea is that basically how they set it up is we're going to transport your perception into the Navi that's riding the thing. So you get on this mechanical thing or whatever that actually breathes under you to simulate.
Oh, wow. Does it kind of smell bad?
No, it doesn't smell bad, thankfully. You don't get fleas while riding it. And then the display opens, or the screen opens up, and it's this huge 3D IMAX thing, and you're flying on a dragon, and air is hitting you when you're going through leaves and stuff. I mean, it was amazing. Talk about transformative experience where your brain and your entire being is convinced. Like, it was very convincing.
Universal Studios has a bunch of those, including the best Harry Potter ride where you're
I keep hearing about the Harry
You
Potter.
got to do the Quidditch match. It's so much. You fly on your broomstick around Hogwarts.
That
It's
sounds
so
fun.
much fun. You get to play Quidditch.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. And I love those because unlike your experience at home, you can have a big mechanical thing. You could be moving around.
Yep.
You can have hot air and all sorts. There's
Yep.
a great Transformers ride there too. You got to try.
Yeah.
That's your next trip.
Okay, apparently.
So
I will
maybe
be
in
taking another vacation.
30, 2040, you can go
All
out.
right, we'll figure it out.
You'll also find Jason on Tech News Weekly every Thursday with Megan Morrone, and we're so glad to have you here. Thank you for joining me on the new Screensavers. We're glad to have you here too. You can watch this show every Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Pacific. That would be 6 p.m. Eastern. That's 2200 UTC. If you want to watch live, go to twit.tv/live. If you want to be in studio, we have like our great studio audience today. All you have to do is email tickets at twit.tv. Don't forget, though, on demand of everything available at twit.tv. In this case, it's twit.tv/NSS. Or get out your Pocket Casts, your Overcast, your Apple iTunes podcasts, your Google Play podcast, whatever you use, subscribe, and you'll get every episode the minute it's available right there, boom, in your phone or whatever device you use. And of course, I think a lot of people nowadays are using their Google Homes, their Amazon Echoes to listen. They're great for listening to podcasts. You got to figure out what the syntax is, and usually it's something like, okay, you know who, listen to the new Screensavers, and it'll play the most recent episode of the podcast. I really think that's going to be a revolution for podcasters. I'm really excited about that. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on the new Screensavers. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.